Kill Complacency, a podcast that inspires growth and intentionality and helps you overcome your greatest obstacles.
My guest today is Santiago Martinez. I met him in Austin at Brandon Turner's REI Summit and just hit it off right away. He was actually down there competing in a fight, jiu-jitsu, I believe. But he's into real estate too. He's flipping houses and trying to build his portfolio, and he's doing the hard. So I wanted to get him on here today. Could you kind of tell us your backstory? Tell us about your combat sports fighting and how you got in real estate and all that.
Right away, like when I connected with you in Austin, I'm like, oh, this is my tribe, right? There was an immediate connection for sure. And actually, funny story, like I'll back up for a second, but just in Austin, I went over there to meet one of my closest friends. He had a baby. So I'm like, let me meet him. Like, I'm going to spend some time. And then a Mac came up out of nowhere. So it's like Friday morning. They're like, hey, somebody dropped out. Would you want to start competing the next day? I haven't competed in quite some time. So I'm like, oh, all right. I started kind of praying a little bit, just seeing like, hey, am I ready for this? Is it going to be okay? And just full send, ended up competing. And then the conference started on Sunday. So it's like nothing was missed. I went there for it, what I wanted to, ended up competing, doing well. I think won my first one, lost my second one, just like a high level competition. And then spent like just a great time with the conference. But just like really, really cool kind of set of events there. How did I start? So like one of the things that I was mentioning earlier was a lot of the lessons and a lot of things that I've kind of learned or I'm implementing right now in business come from combat sports. So just over and over. When I was young, I started judo when I was 8 years old, ended up becoming a black belt, just really diving into it. That was like my first baby, I call it. 15 on, I shifted over into wrestling, ended up competing for Columbia, the country, Division I before that. So I just overall, just like the combat life has certainly brought a bunch of lessons over to real estate. Once wrestling started ending, couple shoulder surgeries, noticing that I'm like, okay, wrestling's going to end eventually. What do I want to do next? 2019, I'm like, all right, I want to build a real estate investment portfolio and let me just dive right into it. So that was probably like 5-ish years ago that I just kind of dove headfirst, coming from athletics into let me figure out what I need to do in order to build this portfolio with very little money.
Yeah. Is your family grew up fighting or is that new to you?
Yeah, it's a great question. My dad's actually a black belt in judo. On that side, I knew so I was born in Colombia, came when I was 7 years old. So I knew he was a black belt. I knew what judo was about. I never practiced it in Colombia. But when I came over here very quickly, like my parents were like, hey, let's find a club that you can really grow up with. And there was a really good club in South Florida. So I didn't really kind of train too much with my dad, but just like because he did what he did, there was a layer of like just I knew about it and I kind of just dove headfirst there.
What is the toughest fight, physically, emotionally, mentally, you've ever had?
Oh man, that's a good one. And it's interesting because a few come up, but it's usually when you start breaking those barriers or getting to that next stage. One specifically that comes up was semis of my sophomore year of college. I was at UCF, so Central Florida. It's a club school. And I remember earlier in the year, I wrestled MIT. And he was such a tough rider. So he would just kind of be able to control you on top. And I remember like, man, knowing there's no way I can get out on this guy. We ended up versing each other again, I think semis of nationals. And this is like when it really counts. He beat me 2-3 weeks before and we're just going at it. I'm like, oh man, I don't know exactly how I'm going to win this, but I'm just going to put my all into it. Ended up going to overtime. So it's a tied match. We're now probably like 12 minutes in, and we're overtime in wrestling and folks are wrestling. It's who can hold each other down. If you remember, like he was a really good rider. And I'm riding. He ended up riding for a little bit. I got out. It's my turn to ride. And I'm kind of going at it. I don't know what's going on. He ended up locking hands last minute. They give me a point. I win. And it was just like, wow, breaking through. Again, like I wrestled Division I and like international after that. So it wasn't even the highest level, but that was one of those moments where kind of showed you, hey, if I put my all into this, good things will happen. Right? I don't know if the result's going to be there or not, but good things will happen. That was like the biggest breakthrough. And I think that will kind of help me level up in multiple areas after that.
Don't you think too, probably the fact that you went into that match with a loss and not a win? Because you were the underdog. Potentially, I mean, we don't have him to talk to about this, but potentially he thought, oh, I got this guy. I got him 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, there is a chance. And I don't know if he really felt that because it was a pretty close match, but there's certainly a layer of like, oof, all right, like a new self needs to come over here because if the same self showed up, 2 weeks ago, it's not going to go that well. And this is when it counts, right?
Yeah.
The cool thing about sports is you're out on the mat, like whatever sport you're at. But in wrestling, it's like you get put into these situations where it's like, oh, either you fold or you really come through. And, like you have possibility to experience that without seeing the reality of what that looks like in life. I almost had like multiple lifetimes purely in my sports world before I started, like hitting hard obstacles in real estate or contractors leaving or like not knowing how to make payroll or, just like things where it's like, oh, this is tough. I'm not sure what I'm going to do, but let's figure it out because I've done hard things before.
Yeah. Would you say there's a fighter's mindset in how you approach business?
Definitely. It's really neat because it's like with wrestling, you're the only one out there, right? So like it's neat because if you didn't do the work, it's going to show 100%.
Yeah.
But then there's also a team component. That team component, there's people there, they're helping you out. You're kind of like, there's like a brotherhood, there's a bond. And with business, it's like, you don't want like C-level guys or C-level people on your team, right? It's like you want like high quality people and you want to help them through it. And they're part of your lineup. You overall as a team need to do well. So that section really helps out because it's almost like, hey, if you don't do your piece, we can't get there. Now it's no longer what the F, you're underperforming. It's, dude, what do we need to do to kind of pull you up? Because this piece is really important. Let's get out. I want you to succeed. One of like the recent insight kind of like picked up was figure out what are the 5-year goals from your employees, the people that are in your team. And based on those 5-year goals, see how they align. And then that is one of the main things. You promise them, you're like, hey, if you give me your all to the here, I'm going to give my all to get you to where you want, right?
Sure.
Now there's alignment because it's almost like if they start slacking or something starts happening, it's like, dude, I thought you really wanted like reach your goal. I need you to kind of get there. Now it's like accountability back and forth and you're on a mission, right? So like connection that is easy to mesh. It's hard to set up, but once you do set it up, there's a layer of like, we're going to go through hard things together. And at the end, we're going to be able to celebrate or higher pay or, like seeing you accomplish your goal is one of those like really fulfilling things that I'm like, oh, I love doing this because of that.
Yeah. There's a book I read years ago. It's called 1 Minute Manager. You should look it up. Have you read it?
I have. I've implemented parts of it, but Ken Blanchard, right?
Yeah. One nugget I took from it was he has a survey in there about to have your employees do a survey on why they work for you. Because as entrepreneurs, we always think it's money, right? We got to pay them more, but it's not. And he found that out. And to your point, we don't know what people's goals are in life. When we can find out what that is, and then we can help them work toward that, amazing things can happen.
100%. What's been really cool is like before I really dove into business, there was a time where I was just competing and doing my thing and kind of leveling up on like the spiritual side. And one of the biggest lessons in that avenue, first of all, like wrestling really picked up in that maybe like 2 years in, but it's not about what you do or what you accomplish, about who you become. So like that same kind of idea I've incorporated into business. And it's not about how many doors, how many flips are we doing, how much profit. No, it's like, who are you becoming in this process? And also like, are you just doing it for you or are you pulling other people like along with you, right? Powerful insight that still didn't come from real estate, came from, sports.
Yeah, from sports. Yeah. Showing up every day. How did you transition from sports comeback to real estate?
Yeah. So this was 2019. Had a good friend over here in the Lehigh Valley that I had maybe like 6 units at the time and realized one was going vacant. Another one needed heavy maintenance. We had no money in the account. I'm about to get a surgery. So there's a layer of like a little bit of a break. And I'm like, hey, he had a landscaping company over here. So he had construction guys and stuff. Dude, what do I do here? I'm kind of stuck. And he's like, come over here. I'll lend you a crew. I'll lend you my guys. You could just lead them and do construction and stuff. And I'm like, okay. I wasn't living in Pennsylvania at that moment. I left for a little bit and came back, ended up leading one of his crews and figuring out. At that time, I had zero construction experience. And if I would do it again, maybe I wouldn't dive as deep into construction. But at that moment, I'm like, I started going into it, understanding it and getting a grasp and leading. At the time, there was probably like C, D level guys that I didn't even know were okay, right? You just don't know what you don't know. And I was able to pick up a little bit of skills on the construction side and understand that, oh, I can manage this and I can work through this. 6 months later, I'm back in wrestling and I ended up tearing my shoulder surgery again. So it's almost like, oof, like I didn't get a second surgery. So it's me on the recovery process. I'm like, wrestling eventually is going to end. If it doesn't end right now, it's going to end in some future. I decided to come live in Lehigh and realize I'm like, okay, I'm noticing enough friction going down the wrestling route. And there's all these openings happening in the real estate investment side. And that's when I kind of just took the plunge. I'm like, whether this is the best decision or not, feeling called to just kind of let wrestling go and really dive into this new season of life, which was building that real estate investment investment company. That was a full plunge, and it went from still 1099, just no W-2, no nothing, to let me do this full time, right? So there was a lot of times like there's like that worry of maybe like I'm in a W-2 job, I need to kind of like soften into this full-time investment stuff. And I just took the plunge, went at it. I had some skills, but I'm like, there's a lot of unknowns. Let's just figure it out.
Tell me about your first deal.
This was 2016. I recently had graduated from Lehigh as a graduate student, and I had my first time W-2 job over here in the Lehigh Valley. It was TPL, so it's the electric company in the area. And maybe I got my job. Less than 3 months later, I knew that I can get an FHA mortgage. So I got an FHA on 7th and Gordon. So if you would know the area, it's like, like very mediocre section. You probably wouldn't want to like live with a family there or whatever. And ended up living in like third floor studio apartment that the building was kind of run down, right? So it was just like a lot of learning as I went and buying a property that was, at the time, I bought it for $96,000 or something, right? So I wasn't go wrong. There was already tenants there. I had never been a landlord. The good thing is I connected with good people right at the beginning. So it gave me the confidence to just take a plunge and go after it. So some of the same people, Rick was one of my first real. Till this day, we connect, and he helped me with a lot of things, and he guided me through it. He had, I don't know how many units at the time, but I just had people around that weren't gonna like guide me wrong. Trial by fire,
What's that house worth today? Do you still have it? Your first one?
Yeah, I still have it. Probably close to 400, high threes maybe.
That's good.
Yeah, no, it's kind of neat. It's like those first few that you got, those either really help you kind of put fuel in the fire for now, or they have really good set of equity, and I haven't refinanced it. I have a credit on it, right? So like we're able to utilize it for more. But it's really, really neat to see, because 2016 wasn't that long ago, right? Like 9 years.
Mhm.
And how does a house, like a 3-unit, go from $100,000 to close to 4 now? Nuts. No.
I have a quote from you. In the cage, hesitation gets you hit. In real estate, hesitation costs you deals. Either way, you've got to move. How has that played out for you, both in sports, but also in combat sports, but also in real estate? Like, when have you seen the application of that?
It's so neat, right? Because let's say when you're on the mat, you start doubting. Let's say you have an opening, you have a shot to take, and you start just doubting it, and you're automatically thinking, right? You're in your head, you're out of your body, you're not letting your body do a thing. Same thing with real estate, right? You know an area, you know what numbers go for in an area. You have a pretty good pulse with the experience that you have. A deal comes your way, and you're lingering on it. You didn't call the wholesaler back. You didn't call the realtor back. You just kind of like enough friction there where it just, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it next week. And it passed, right? Right then and there, he goes to somebody else or whatever. He doesn't get it or something. So it's like, there's like these just small moments of hesitation that start costing you like, hey, 30, 40K that you didn't make on profit, or a profit you weren't able to make, like put in the portfolio, or even nitty gritty. It's almost like when you're on a call with somebody and you're kind of hearing them out, and then they tell you something, and maybe like, let me think about it. It's like you're that hesitation of just like, hey, let's see it. Let's go through with it. Hey, all right. There's a layer there of like, you feel the confidence even on the phone. If you start doubting your confidence, start doubting your knowledge, then that's when things linger, and then that momentum doesn't kind of continue rolling.
Yeah.
That's been like the biggest connection with that.
What's an illustration of maybe some hesitation on the mat where it's cost you?
Oh, one of the things, I'm starting to get back competition a little bit, and it's so crazy, right? Because I competed for a whole life. But now when I get back into it, I start noticing that, hey, there's certain positions you get to kind of put other people in that just slow the match down. Sometimes that's good. Sometimes it's like, no, just let your body do. Stop worrying about getting tired. Stop worrying about what ifs, right? It's almost like there's layers of stop hesitating whether you're going to get tired or not. You will get tired. Get to that point, then figure it out. So actually in Austin, it was my second match there. It was another wrestler. So in jiu-jitsu, you have different styles, and it changes a good chunk depending on what style they're coming or what background they're bringing. And he was another wrestler. And with that, I wasn't super confident. 3 5-minute matches or 3 5-minute rounds. And that's a lot. In wrestling, you have maybe like 2 3-minute rounds, or 3 2-2s in folk style. So with this one, I'm like, I don't think I have the gas tank. And I started slowing it down. And he got the best of me on like a few different kind of takedowns and stuff. And it's like, I should be a much better wrestler than he is. But at that moment, he was, because I needed to just go out there and bring the fight, not slow the match down. Right. So like too much strategy, not enough like heart. You need to have a balance between the two. At that time, I had too much strategy versus the amount of heart that I needed to bring.
I feel like we see that in sports a lot, right? Where a team's up, going into the fourth quarter, they start playing the whole game. They've been aggressive.
Yeah.
And they start playing to manage the clock. The other team puts a full court press on or whatever.
Yes.
And they end up losing. I mean, The Thunder had it happen in the finals. They led the whole time until 1 second left.
I call it tight butt. So another story really quick on the wrestling side. So like Division 1 at Lehigh, beginning of the year, I have my spot at 165. I've worked all this way. I got a scholarship. I came over here. I leveled up from club to Division 1, something that's really unheard of. I'm like, okay, cool. This is my chance. And I worked really hard. So that there was a layer of just kind of me putting a time and effort. But I noticed that the first half of the year, I'm like 500 athlete. So like I'm losing to some good guys. I'm winning to some media. Like there was just like a back and forth, not great performance. Ended up losing my spot and going up to 174. I'm naturally weighing around 173, 175, right? So I'm almost like, oh, I'm gonna get crushed. Division 1 guys are strong. You have these just like guys that have been wrestling, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm doomed for it. Like I came over here to kind of wrestle in this. That was my spot. And they're just bringing me up because they don't have anybody else. I'm like, all right, I'm the worst of the worst. I reached my bottom in a sense at that moment. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna let it fly. No longer there. It got taken away from me. At 174, it was towards the end of the season. Out of the last maybe 14, 15 matches that I had, I ended up going on like 9-win streak, like beating some pretty tough guys. Lehigh ended up kind of like beating the national champs. It was just like really cool where it's like, oh, because I just let my body do its thing, I allowed kind of like a higher possibility or a higher chance for a better result now. But ended up kind of like taking second at conference. So I made it to nationals, but then at nationals again, kind of like tightened up. I ended up winning my first match and losing the next two. Pretty good guy the second match, but then third guy I should have beat. So it's just like it's so hard to kind of like really dial in that mental component, especially when stakes are high.
Sure. How's that parallel to like real estate? Your business?
Oh man, it's really neat, right? Because I'm 33. It's only been 5 years. So we've started to build. I'm leading people. They're older than me. There's a team component. It's almost like there's people's careers depending on you, right? So like you start putting more and more weight on your shoulders, and it could be like, oh my God, there's all this weight. What do I do? Like, you start kind of like, what if I'm guiding them wrong? What if, right? You start hesitating, and all that hesitation is bringing kind of like this friction to the universe, where it's like you're saying you want that, but then when I give you a little bit of weight that is required to get like past that point, you're already hesitating, or your problems when it's like that is bound to happen. Like if I were to overreact on an eviction, it's like, hey, we have 55 units. Some tenants are going to be late and they're going to have to go through court in order to do whatever we need, right? So it's like, that's going to happen. Like it's inevitable. I overreact to that. It's like, oh, I'm not going to give you more units. God's like, learn to manage what you have before I'm going to give you more. That's what I see sometimes.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. You've built your portfolio mostly with zero or no money down, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people, they don't understand that. And it just blows their mind. They think you have to have all this money to do real estate. Could you talk through some of that strategies, maybe even how you build trust with investors?
We have built our business and our portfolio, well, first of all, on trust, but on private money lenders, right? So there's a misconception. It's like, oh, like you need money in order to invest in real estate. And the reality is like money is more equivalent to value. Right. So if I'm able to give an investor a pretty good return, and I'm finding the deal and I'm operating it and I'm able to start it and finish it and get their money back, now it's almost like you don't need to put your own money. You just need to make sure you have the skills to be able to do this whole thing. We work with a lot of wealthy individuals, and at the end of the day, it's being able to find properties that need some love, right? So like this value add properties, we go ahead and use the wealthy individual's money in order to renovate the house, purchase it. Then we go through with it. If we're going to keep it in the portfolio, we refinance it and pay the private money lender back. Or if we're going to flip it, the buyer gets the loan and the private money lender gets paid back. And we've kept that up over and over. So it's the same process over and over and over. And it's more of like, after some point, I'm like, oh man, I tapped that guy out and I tapped that guy out. And I'm almost like, because I have done the same thing over and over, it's like the same paperwork that we started with, the same thing. I can show everybody from start to finish how it is. We're hand holding them from beginning to end. We're helping them with at the end, there's like 2 documents, the satisfaction piece and the mortgage stat and the payoff letter. And it's almost like we're helping them create it, right? It's like at the end of the day, it's you build trust. They see that you're not going to steal their money and take it and travel or whatever. And they're like, oh, this is an avenue that I can make pretty good returns on my capital with somebody that trusted and is going to pick the phone whenever I call, or he's not just going to kind of like when problems come up, just go somewhere and not deal with it. Right? That's been really, really powerful. And actually, one of the things that we have a little blueprint, it's like the private money blueprint that helps somebody go from I've never done a deal before to I'm pretty confident about about investing in real estate, private money lender. If anybody's interested, kind of like DM me lender on my Instagram, and happy to kind of share that.
Okay. Santiago, how did you develop those relationships? You just go after it?
Great question. Because like right at the beginning, 2019, right? I'm ending wrestling and I had one private money lender that was my title agent. He did one hard money loan when I was first starting out. And I knew I had one person minimum. Then in wrestling, there was a layer of like, I would just talk about real estate. And one of the wrestlers is like, hey, I told him, like, if you're ever interested in investing in real estate, let me know. He's like, oh, what's that? Tell me more. Can you send me something? And I'm like, I wasn't sure what to do, So I ended up coming up with the numbers and I had a couple deals like available from wholesalers and stuff that this process started. So it's just now like there's people that either I know or word of mouth or anytime that I'm talking and there's somebody that it might fit, then I just kind of like let them know like, hey, this is what we do. And a lot of people are making good chunk of money purely from just kind of like investing in as a private money lender. And what I've noticed too is there's been, I think, 2 or 3 different private money lenders that ended up investing themselves. They're like, okay, they no longer are investing with me, but they're starting to kind of like invest in their own properties. And I'm like, oh, this is perfect. Like I can find private money lenders. Money's everywhere to be seen. I have the track record. I've never done anybody wrong. So it's like, I don't care about losing a private money lender to them investing themselves. I'm like, the real wealth comes from like being able to hold it and buy it and keep it and just kind of like really have that passive side. So if I got somebody interested and that got started because of it, I'm like, oh, good. I did some good to the world, I think.
Santiago, what is your philosophy of investing? Is it cash flow, appreciation? I know you're doing some flips right now.
Yeah. Initially, I was like, hey, I'm going to buy and hold. I'm going to keep forever. I'm not going to let go of anything. I'm really going to just build a buy and hold portfolio. And that did me well for the first 4 years. But then I started realizing there's like, hey, there's all this lingering. There's a line of credit that's kind of full. And there's like credit card that's full. And a couple refinances ended up refining at like 56% of loan to value. And I'm like, what? I have all this wealth. Why is it that I'm getting stuck with like all these just bills? And there's I see portfolio or rentals as like a drip, right? It's going to like be there for the rest of time as long as you manage it well, as long as you take care of the tenants, as long as you do right by them and you're, just taking care of the property. But it's also a drip, right? It's like how many people can drink off of a drip? Not as many unless you have like a lot of rentals. And since it's only been 5-6 years since like I really got this going, I'm like, and I want a team now. The philosophy I started developing is like there's a long sword and then there's a short sword. I see the rentals as a long sword. You will get taken care of, no doubt. Like that 3 unit that I bought for 100 and it's worth 400 and it's been cash flowing like a monster ever since. It's like that's phenomenal. But then I want to make sure that there's ways as to how I can have other people go in this route with me. That's when I started really doubling down on the flip equation, and that's the short sword. Now being able to have capital injections to your business, that way there's oxygen. Without oxygen, you can't survive no matter how wealthy you are, right? That kind of you need the balance between the two. And when you start doing too much short sword, like buy a property, especially with the bonus appreciation that's going on now, that you're able to kind of like level out on with Uncle Sam.
Yeah. I have another quote from you.
Yeah.
Every fight teaches you something. So does every property. Sometimes you win, sometimes you learn, but you only grow if you keep showing up.
Definitely.
My question to you is, what is a recent property that you've had go sideways?
But it was the closest thing to going sideways. So this was probably 2 months ago. Biggest deal to date. It was an 8 unit on our flip equation kind of like avenue. And this 8 unit came about. Pretty good deal. I have never bought like with private lending is usually like purchases from like 150, 200 plus reno and stuff, right? So like those numbers, I'm like, oh, I could capture that. No problem. This purchase price was, if I remember correctly, it was like 850 maybe 840 or something along those lines. And I'm like, who do I know that can come up with capital like right now? I'm like, cause it needed to close cash, right? So it was like quick closing. It came to me. I'm like, sellers in distress, estate sale. Like there was just pieces there that I had to close cash. And I'm like, all right, kind of get in there, getting on the phones, connecting with all of our lenders, and then coming up with a pretty cool solution where I found a private money lender. He was a relationship from a friend, and I had a good relationship private money lender. We've done quite some deals together that was willing to come on second on that same deal. And I'm like, cool, this is good. The first said he's okay with second. I'm like, all right, no harm, no foul. We're all good. All the capital's there. We go to the closing table. I sign. First private lender, then he's like, hey, you didn't tell me about the second person on lien. Were you going to need to sign a subordination agreement and all of that? Luckily, I had already communicated with the person on second. Hey, you're on second. There's more risk or whatever. Like I kind of like I went through it. All of our paperwork reflected that when we signed already. So the deal closed, but he was asking to make sure that person on second signed the subordination agreement. When he takes a look at it, he's like, hey, let me get my lawyer to take a look at it. I'm like, oh my God. There's a wholesaler involved. There is title involved. There is multiple private lenders. There's just a lot of people in the transaction. I lose. I'm 50K out. There's an EMD of 50. And that was like hard earned, part profit, part wherever I could find it. Right. And I'm like, all right. He's like, give me till lunchtime the next day to really get back to you. I'm like, all right, cool. He's like, I just don't know about this first lien guy. I'm like, all right, at a minimum, he's connecting with me and he's on my side and he just doesn't know about this lien. We end up connecting at 12. He's like, hey, my lawyer doesn't want me to sign this. I'm like, my heart dropped.
How much money was he bringing?
250, 230, 215 around there. So it's a good chunk of money per second, right? It's understandable. I would 100% kind of like follow his lawyer's advice. So then I'm like, lender number 2, I'm like, let's do this. Regardless, we need the capital. What if I place you on first on another one of our properties that has no mortgage and we're able to work through it that way? He's like, oh, would you do that? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. We need to get this done. He's like,
yeah.
And I'm like, all right, cool. So right then and there, we were able to draft up paperwork. Luckily, we know how to do it. We know how to go about it. I rushed over to title. I signed the new paperwork. The funds were already at closing. We just needed the A-OK from each lender to just go through with it.
That was creative of you.
Wow. It was like a 20-second decision. Now, the next thing was like, hey, talking to my wife and being like, hey, I put a mortgage on our house. Luckily, she understood and like we talked about it and I need to kind of connect with her before actually making those decisions. It was one of those moments where I'm like, oh, wow, I resolved what would that be? Like an $800,000 problem. Cool. Now, let's say an 8-unit or a 6-unit coming up and purchase price is, I don't know, $650 or whatever. And I'm like, oh, I've done that before. I come up with the funds if I need to. And I have plenty of the relationships that now trust me to do that.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
It was a thrilling ride.
I love that quote. You have the line, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. And a lot of times we're too afraid of losing because it means we failed. And so we don't even attempt. But when we adjust it to win or learn, then you just keep going. There's endless possibilities.
Definitely. And I think there's so much truth there. Sometimes even like this next level, it's not about my failures, right? But it's about allowing even your team to make mistakes. That way they can learn, that way they can level up. So it's kind of neat because let's say we're about to lose money on our first flip. You know, I think we're going to go $12,000 under. And I'm like, ooh, it hurt. And it's little things that I'm like, oh, I know that if you're finishing a basement, but it's less 7 feet, it's not going to count. So don't go through with it, right? But I never walk property. This is a layer of just kind of like trusting team and talking about it and stuff. And there's these pieces where it's like, oh, these are the kind of balls that I need to be okay with dropping in order for the team to learn and those results to show. That way you're like, this can't happen anymore, right? Like, what do we need to do? Because if multiple of these happen, hey, there's no profit, there's no gains, like there's no team. Kind of neat because it's like, even though you already know it, it's almost like, how do you teach it? How do you set a time apart in order to like show your team, this is the way to go. This is what we need to do. And that's been recently like more of a learning how to lead and showing them my lessons and putting it in story version. So it's been a cool little last season of business.
I had a deal last year, just under 6 foot tall ceilings.
Yes.
And no big deal. We were just going to come in and take off the roof. It was a flat roof, angled back. And then we were just going to throw a 2x10 up all the way around as a band and rebuild it. You know, it's going to be a $5,000 frame out. No big deal. Like, totally worth it. And then, you know, just pay piece in the sheetrock. All the sheetrock was good. We just had to add that 1 foot of sheetrock. We do it. It's like clockwork. Tear it off, put it back. It's like a 2-3 day turnaround. But we failed to communicate with the roofer, and that roof sat, and then it rained. It ruined all the sheetrock. Because 50% of the walls were removed, the city made me bring the whole house up to code on wiring. I had to re-sheetrock it. Now I had to rewire it. It was one phone call.
Those are the ones that hurt, right?
Yeah, because it was completely avoidable.
Yes.
Or just get a tarp. We should have got a tarp.
Oh, man.
It was a good plan until it wasn't.
And it's almost like with stuff like that, because it's not about that one phone call, right? It's about that ownership of like, hey, if there's a team, it's almost like, hey, who's in charge of making sure that you start and finish, right? If it's not finished, then bad things happen. Let's make sure we start and end it. And then it's almost like, okay, who's in charge of this? Well, we have Jenny, we have Jonathan, we have Renee, right? Everybody has a role. Everybody has a task. This person's the one that main contact with the subcontractors. This person's in charge of scheduling. This person's in charge of doing walk. It's really neat because Because it's like we know who to train and who's responsible for what based on this whole equation. And if there's a gap that happens, almost like, okay, how do we solve this? Because this isn't in anybody's role. Who do we give this to in order for standards to stay high? Kind of neat because like that mistakes helps us all become better.
Yeah, that's good. Santiago, what advice would you give to somebody who feels stuck in comfort and they're afraid to take action?
There's a couple sides to me. One is I like to organize, I like to plan, but I take action right when I find that first kind of nugget, right? It's like, okay, what's the first thing I could do? I'm like, I feel overwhelmed. Let's put everything on paper, right? That is one action that I can do right now. One of the worst spots that you can be in is in neutral, right? If you don't know if you're going forward, but then this happens and you go back and then, it's like doubt doesn't help anybody. So it's almost like get clear about where you're going and then just start moving. If you realize that's not the route that you want to take, cool, let's shift a little bit. If there's like analysis paralysis, then there's a layer of like not having a lot of clarity as to like your why or where is it that you're heading. So figure out where do you want to head. Then based on that, hey, let's start working through what are the actions there. And one of the things actually we connected on the conference was like AI, right? And it's like right now, the how is no longer a question. You can ask chat, you can kind of loop in all these experts into your GPTs, into your, like AI project. And now you have expert level like knowledge right then and there that can guide you, right? Yeah. So it's now like how resourceful can you be in order to get where you want to go?
I used ChatGPT this week to tell me how to build a pergola and give me the material list. Like
crazy.
Yeah, and then you just send it over to Lowe's and it's done.
It is so nuts. We're implementing a lot of AI in so many sections of the business. And it's really cool because one thing is me learning like how it works. Another thing is like teaching like your team how to do that. And then also kind of like seeing their excitement. One of the biggest challenges, like helping them run through that first loop. Like they're like, all right, I hear that you're doing all this. I hear that you're able to do all these things, but I don't know if it's going to work for me. Then they go ahead and try it and they close a pretty good project out. The things that they were doing and it was taking 3 hours, 2 hours, 1 hour, now are taking 15 minutes. Oh, now what else can I do? Right? So it's like that question starts coming up and that's like the perfect spot because now their intrigue, their momentum, their excitement start taking on like different projects with AI.
Yeah, that's good. You're 33 years old. What are you doing right now that your future self will thank you for?
Diving into the finances. It was, if I don't look at the numbers, then I will be able to keep this momentum and I'll continue to be able to just move forward. And there was a layer of like, I don't want to look at them, right? It's like that loss of a project. I'm like, it's not looking too good. Now it's more of like, hey, let's double down. What are the numbers? Those numbers are what's going to help us really make better decisions. So like that mental shift of, no, let's disregard the details and let's just kind of like work really hard. I'm going away from that and I'm more of like, let's look at the numbers and let's make decisions from the numbers. Because I just took Wealth Mastery from Tony Robbins. And one of the things he says is, I love numbers and numbers love me, right? So just being able to have a better connection with your finances and your numbers, it's a crucial thing that my older self's going to be like, wow, I'm so glad that your QuickBooks are dialed in. I'm so glad that you have your profit and loss in order, your balance sheet.
Kind of thinking about what you'd say to your 20-year-old self, but changing a little bit. If you were to give a high school graduation speech, what would you talk about and why?
It's a good one. Yeah, and hindsight's 2020, right? But it's like I really wish somebody like earlier on mentioned like, hey, the power of focus is so crucial. Starting out, I became a realtor, and then I noticed I don't want to be a realtor. That's not an investor. I started wholesaling. I kind of like learned how to a little bit of buy and hold. And there was just a layer of like there was probably like 5-year stint where I bought very little property and wasn't really an investor how I should have been, right? I would say figure out the route that you want to take and just dial into it. Don't add anything else until you're an expert in that section. And to give yourself 1 year in that area and develop as much as you can. Because it's now what I'm doing. I'm letting go of Airbnb midterm stuff. I'm putting the portfolio on passive mode. I'm getting really good at equation and developing the full systems, the leadership side, management. That focus is something that's so easy to say, but it's so hard to do because I listened to Alex Hormozy and that woman on the red dress is she looks really pretty and she keeps on looking prettier and prettier. And that's a reference to the Matrix, right? It's like Morpheus and a girl in the red dress passes and he goes and looks at her and Morpheus is like, are you paying attention? And Agent Smith is right there with his gun, right? It's like every time you start looking at the girl in the red dress, you start taking your eye off of the main thing at that moment. Money will come. That's inevitable. It will come as long as you're able to focus on an area to such a high degree that it's inevitable that it's going to succeed.
That's good. That's really good. Hey, what's a favorite quote you've had that's motivated you or maybe a book?
Yeah, so go back and forth. So it's almost like with business, there's a lot of like just masculine energy and going and striving and kind of like working through stuff, right? And it's like super powerful, very necessary in some ways. And then I'll just kind of like feel like, oh my God, too much. And then I'll just go to maybe a layer of like more spirituality. Let me let things happen, kind of like let life work for you. Right now, I would say like what I'm reading and like what comes to mind, like one of those staples that I really connect to is like the power of now. And it's like at the end of the day, the only thing that really matters is this moment, right? The more that I'm able to ground myself and be like, hey, take a deep breath, right? That contractor leaving is not that big of a deal, right? It's like, it's supposed to happen. Like there are no mistakes. This is part of the journey. Almost like, oh, okay, relax, dude. Everything's going to be okay.
Yeah, that's good. My last question for you is, if this was your final message, what would you want the world to know?
I think I mentioned it earlier a little bit, but at the end of the day, it's not about what you do or how many units you have. It's about who you become.
That's really good. Hey, how do people find, follow, and learn more about you?
Yes, beautiful. So I'm pretty active on Instagram, S Martinez 74 kg. I still have my Olympic wrestling weight class there. And yeah, if they want that private money lender blueprint, just DM me lender. And overall, I try to I'm learning how to become very comfortable in the camera and just vocalize. I know you do such a good job with that. And I'm like, I have so much knowledge that I want to be able to share. And are things perfect now? Absolutely not. But I'm going to show my imperfection and you're going to be able to see me through my journey.
Yeah. You don't have to be great to start, but you got to start to be great.
Exactly.
That was my motivating quote to start the podcast.
Oh, I love it.
Well, thank you so much. This was a pleasure.
Absolutely. Good stuff, Marty. Man, I love this. It's always nice connecting with like-minded people.
Yeah, for sure.
Just wanted to thank you guys for listening to the end. In closing, I just wanted to add that if this message resonates with you, if it aligns with your values and something in it today triggered something, then you can also look me up on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube. We are really trying to help people live more intentional lives to kill the complacency with which they have subscribed to. I know there's many ways which I get sucked in all the time. So if this is beneficial, follow me there.